Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Road to GT Academy. As you can see, it's on race analysis. So essentially we're just going to look at a race. There's one race in particular. It was on Oinks live stream. Now if you don't know Oink, I'll leave his channel below and also his live stream channel. He does loads of videos, so you know, head there. He's a big YouTuber, so I suspect most of you probably already subscribed, but it's one of his live stream races, and I thought I'd talk about the lap and how I start and then how I think about each individual part of it until the last lap. So it's one lap and it's of Nürburgring Nordschleife. But before we get into that as well, I just want to mention that this Wednesday, the 15th, there's a huge event involving Gran Turismo at Silverstone. Now Kazunori is doing the event himself, and it's going to involve some announcements apparently. So a few things to look out for. I believe, if I'm to guess from the video I've seen, it's going to involve GT6 and possibly the announcement of GT Academy this year. So do keep a lookout for that. I'll also make a video about it as soon as I know anything. But we'll just have a look at this race now and how I analyse it as we go. So this is an open lobby on Oinks live stream. So I'll just pause it there for a second. As you can see, it's full 16 man grid. I'm starting slap bang in the middle, probably the worst place you could start on the live stream. So before, as soon as I come to this screen, I'll just mention a few thoughts that go through my head. One, how am I going to avoid a collision? Because you know it's a very thin track, the Nordschleife. Overtaking's hard. Obviously there's going to be a bit of contact in places. I've just got to keep it minimal. So I've got to play it very safe. And because I feel I'm quite a strong driver, I obviously feel that I could get ahead. Now in this race, as soon as I knew the driver lineup, from what I saw, I know Oink obviously. So I know he's a good strong driver, and I also know Gerdiel, who's in 14th. I know he's a good strong driver as well. So they were my two people I was looking out for more than anybody else in this race. So what I'll do is I'll just play it. I'll just talk about how things go as we go. So I get a pretty good start, as you'll see now. I catch them up pretty quickly. So at this point, I'm just making sure I get around the first corner. I don't want any, bad antics. I can see his accidents happening. I want to stay the opposite side of that as best as I can. I notice the car on the left leaves a huge gap in a second. There you go. And I dive straight in there. Leave him space for the outside. He goes off. But now I just maintain my position. I can see these two in front of battling. 3 into 1 definitely doesn't go. I just stay behind and then look for an opportunity when I can. So I'm just following at this point, playing it really safe, hoping to get past. Slight nudge there, but that was because of an instant slowdown. It's going to happen. It will happen in GT racing, It's just something that will happen. So I've made up 2 positions there. Mainly one was from a gap, another was from somebody else's mistake. At this point I know there's a high speed corner coming up, so I don't want to go on the inside at this point. However, the guy on the right behind me does look like that, but he leaves me space, which is very well played by Nico, it looks like. Somebody else went off there. I'm up to 5th. At this point now I can see I've got a huge speed advantage. I can overtake this guy, K08, and I can get into 4th place. So at this point I've made 4 positions up in the minute we've been racing. I'm now just looking ahead now. Most of the pack's behind me. I can just focus on the remainder. I see a guy go off to the right. I know he's going to shoot left because he won't brake in time. Oink obviously sees that as well, slows right down, up to 3rd. Notice during this race I'm looking at each individual aspect. Rather than thinking I want 1st, I'm looking at the next position along, looking at the next driver, how they're reacting, how I can gain an advantage, and any accidents that might happen. So at this point I'm now going to start looking at this battle between Sunshine, Oink and myself, and how can I get past these 2 drivers. So at the moment I'm just staying behind. I slightly tapped Oink there. It was my mistake. I'm coming from behind. I was a bit on the inside, and obviously this is a one-mate race and I've never used this car on this track. It's something you've got to get used to with the camera and the car size. So I hold back a bit more. I realise Sunshine is defending hard against Oink, so I realise Oink's a faster driver in this instant. So rather than sort of push Oink and then him have to defend against me, or you know, getting to a point where 3 into 1 into a corner. You don't really want 3 into 1 in a corner. If you stay back, let 2 drivers fight it out. If you get the opportunity, stay with them, make sure you're close, because if they do make a mistake you can grab both of them. So at this point I'm just, you know, coming on and off the accelerator all the time. It's quite, you know, crazy, but I know this corner a lot of people make mistakes at. It's very sharp. Oink makes a slight mistake, Sunshine makes a bigger mistake, gets a shortcut penalty. Allows Oink and me now to go into the top 2 positions. So at this point I've still got half a lap to go. I'm thinking, okay, I can assess Oink. I'm thinking of the straight, the final straight, but I see Oink makes a mistake there. I take the gap, take the opportunity and get ahead. I leave Oink a bit of space on the right because he was there. Unfortunately I get past and now I'm ahead. So at this point, now I'm ahead and I feel like I'm one of the stronger drivers in the field. I'm thinking, what can I learn? You know, I want to learn as much as I can from this. It's a fun race. I'm not racing for anything other than just enjoyment. So now I'm going to start to push the car and see what kind of gap I can get. So in this, for example, straight, I want to sort of get used to the car, the speed, and if it has any oversteer at certain points, how I can use that knowledge later on on the track. So obviously the knowledge life is a huge lap, so you know you got to try and use any knowledge you can get further down the line. So this is easy enough, you know, it's just a straight. I'm just assessing the situation. Now this corner I do have to brake for. I sort of over brake, but I realise that, and I can use that for this next part, realising that I can use a bit more of the track. The car's got a bit more grip than I expected. Don't brake as much. I'm using a bit more of the track. Still could use more. Going in. Testing the braking now. Noticed I broke and realised I was going to come in too early. Backed off and was just staying at about 40% braking, adjusting accordingly just to sort of make the corner at the right speed. Carousel. Now I don't know the exact speed I can do this at. I remain at average speed and then push out of it. Once again now I'm going to just test the car and try and push the car and myself as much as possible. Just try and get a big gap and just see what I can do. I'm also looking at the driver list on the side, on the right. You can see Gurdiel is coming up the list. I can see Oink is still in second. So, you know, I've got to be wary of that while I push as well. But I'm going to start pushing a bit more through this. This is the nice lovely section. It's flowing. It's like right to left to right to left to right. And it's really good just to get a flow. And this gives you a good feel of the car and the grip it's got. As you can see, I'm pushing a bit more. I'm using a bit more of the track. I do go far to the left here. And here I accelerate a bit too early. Left rear goes on the grass. I've now got into a spin, trying to control it as best as I can. I've gone on full lock to the right here at this point. Spin it back to the left really quickly and get going again. Fortunately, it didn't cost me too much time. Oink and Jabber are still fighting behind. So at this point now, I'm thinking, yeah, I can push a bit more. I've pushed a bit too hard there. Let's see what kind of gap I can still get for the rest. I still want to learn stuff. I'm not really too bothered at this point in this fun race about, you know, winning. That doesn't really bother me. So I'm going to continue to push myself, not push as much obviously because I realise the limits back there. Obviously from knowing the track generally you can sort of get an idea of the corners anyway. I'm going to continue to push, and you can see Jabber's going further and further away in my mirrors, so I know I'm sort of pulling ahead. I also noticed Gurdiel is actually up to third now. So this obviously, I've got to think about that now. If I do spin again, he's going to be on my tail and so is Jabber. But we are coming towards the end of the lap, so you know I can still push a bit. So I'll continue to push. We've got this other carousel-like corner here. Use all the inside obviously because it's the most helpful camber you can get. And I'm going to accelerate up. And I know at this point there's not much to push with, so I'm just want to get around this as safely as I can. I missed the apex slightly, but I know this corner. I'm going to let off slightly and then go full pelt. I realise I've got enough grip to do that. And then it's just a nice easy flat out. Because I haven't been in top gear yet, you'll notice in a second, I do have a little play with the gears just to see how many gears it's got, because it's not a very fast accelerating car as you can see now. We're hitting 160. Slowly heading towards 170. There we go, 170. So I'll just check there's a 6th gear, you know. Now we're up to 173, 174. It's just going up the hill. Now we're going to go downhill. We're going to pick up a bit more acceleration. Obviously this is a very hard part, I realise this, so I'm going to start braking. And I'm only going to brake slowly but surely. I don't want to brake full on because it'll make the rear end come out. Make the corner perfectly. Come round the final section, and now it's just to cross the finish line. So in that, I just wanted to sort of show you that in a race, or in a fun race, or in a race that you don't have any practice, because it's sort of leading on from the last episode, you can still learn stuff. Just push yourself, and you've got to try and pick out each individual situation. You can't go, I'm starting in 8th, I want to finish in 1st, I'm going to finish in 1st. You've got to look at, how am I going to get 7th, how am I going to get 6th, how am I going to get 5th, 4th, 3rd, and so on. And then think about the drivers. So say at GT Academy, I'd look at the drivers in the race, like I did last time, and say if I saw Rutter there, because he's a very fast driver. Well, I mentioned the battle previously with Rutter and Dantastic. As soon as I see them in the race, I know it's going to be a hard race to win, obviously, because they're very good drivers. Obviously, I'm not sort of insulting the other drivers, but Dantastic and Rutter were the, really high on the list. So obviously, I worry about them more than drivers I beat myself. Obviously, I shouldn't discount those because obviously they can easily catch me up. Because GT Academy, you're only, you're missing out by a 10th or 2. So I just pick out individual situations through that. I went from, I started in the mid pack, so it's very worrying, but I'm seeing people making mistakes, I'm holding back, I'm not trying to force my way through, and then obviously I've won the race by 6 seconds, including a spin in that. As I mentioned before, Gurdiel was a good driver. He finished 2nd and he started in 14th, I believe it was, so he did very well as well. So that's sort of a race analysis and then how you can use that. And it's the sort of thing I do when I'm in a race. I just pick out each individual situation. Obviously if Ghost is in there, I've mentioned this in the past, me and Ghost have a good rivalry. I sort of look to where Ghost is all the time because me and Ghost have very good battles. Any questions with race analysis, feel free to ask them. As always, do check out Oinks' channel, it's really good, and I'll probably produce a video for the 15th with any announcements involving Gran Turismo. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Cheers.